Do, pow, pow, pow. All right, Freedom Phil live from the Survival Pod here in the Wasteland. And what's the topic today? If there's one thing that both Democrats and Republicans should be able to agree on and unify under, when you see this fraud where millions and eventually multiple billions of dollars are leaving this country in suitcases, and this tip of the shit iceberg is just the Somali situation. This is all over the country, and I'd ask the question, are we losing more a year than we gave to the auto industry for a one-time thing to help bail them out? When we bailed out the banks, are we losing more on the average year in fraud, organized crime in our country, extorting our welfare programs, than we lose in all the bailing out of the banks? And I point this out because if you're going to tell these young people to go to work and, become good, hard-working providers and blah, 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 you got to pay for Social Security, don't you know? Then you best set up a situation where these people can prosper. You best make sure the money's spent, the correct accounting. You shouldn't have to pay one dime more than is necessary to keep this government running. And if you're going to give the money away to a bunch of foreigners that just showed up yesterday, and it's not like, oh, they get a little Section 8. No. We're seeing people in really nice houses, driving really nice vehicles, all on your public dollar. You know that part where they need health care? Fake healthcare organizations, fake daycare organizations, fake organizations to feed people, fake things to help people with autism. Yeah, this is kind of a long intro, right? But if you're going to tell all these people to pay all this shit, can you at least account it right? And where am I going with this? It's Freedom Phil, like and subscribe. Let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I always say that? Because 1.75 is what you should be watching this if I choose to upload it. And as well, always remember, this is not a channel for children. I swear I cuss. I talk about real issues. I'm kind of offensive and crass. And I am not your digital nanny. So if you're just plopping your kid in front of a screen and they regurgitate something I say, that's on you, motherfucker, for not being a decent parent and know what your kids are watching. And my channel gets a lot of robots and retards, and I will happily call that shit out. It's about 5% of the people that show up are actually thinking meat people, have the ability to actually have a conversation like a normal person. So don't be surprised if I'm a little rude or crass to some of the people in here, because a lot of them aren't even people. Let's get into it. You look at the cost of living in America. You look at the cost of housing. By the way, boomers, you've done nothing to make a difference on that one. You look at the cost of interest payments for buying a house. Like you now, if you're a thinking individual, you now have to go to like some other part of the country, like the Midwest. You work hard, live as cheap as possible, maybe do the van life thing. And you go to another part of the country so you can buy someone's older house, so you can pay cash for it. That's not the American dream that the boomers had. Where's that Brady Bunch house, motherfuckers? Where's that brand new nice house? That's out of your reach as a normal American these days. Your education is designed to fail you. 13 years of education, and you're good enough to do what? Flip hamburgers, stock dollar store shelves? I know I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In another 2 to 4 years, so you can get a job. All that effort, all that work, all that credit exploitation on top of the anywhere from 35 to 45, let's be honest, probably 50% of your income going to taxes. Then the interest payments. And what do you have left over? Jack all fucking shit. You were trained and raised to be a failure. A successful failure. Got a few nice things. Just doggy paddling through life. And the only reason you can't swim to that beach, to safety, is because they put fucking all this debt and weight and this fraud on you. And these kids, they're getting smarter. I'm sorry, old people, but let's be real. You can't ask these people to pay for your bullshit pension you call Social Security. Because if this fraud had happened in a private company, oh, you bet people would be outraged. They ripped off a bunch of senior citizens. Their pensions. They ripped off the senior citizens. The reason that nobody is rioting, the reason that all the old people, I don't care right or left, Democrat or Republican, and if this is one issue you should at least be able to come together on. And if you can't come together on something this simple, then fuck asking the next generation to fund this bullshit. When they're giving away, like you see suitcases of money, multiple millions, overall billions on a daily, regular basis over the course of time. Are we losing more money in fraud? And look, the Somali situation, that organized crime, and that is just the tip of the shit iceberg. This is just, you bet if you trace this money far enough back, it goes back to the politicians that are allowing it to happen. This organization donated this much to such and such political campaign. That's how this shit is working. They're taking your tax dollars and having this fraud, and these people that are committing the organized crime are the middlemen that are getting rich, and they're making small empires back in their country. Meanwhile, by the way, this should, if anybody should be pissed off, it's the heritage Americans, but particularly the black Americans, that your ancestors lived in slavery. And you've been talking about reparations for ages. Could some of that Somali fraud money have sent you to a decent trade school, a night school, maybe even learning at home? Could some of that money, if you're homeless, help somebody get like a little tiny home? Oh, wait, no, don't talk about housing. They certainly make it hard. They put all these regulations. There's places where you can buy a piece of land, but you can't park. Like, you're in the middle of the county, in the middle of nowhere. You can't park an RV on your own fucking property for over a certain amount of weeks. They'll see this area, it's not even an HOA. They make it hard for you to live. They make it easy for fraudsters to come to this country and set up fraudulent businesses. And then they hide behind race. I'd really like to know how do the African American people feel about that after all the fucking bullshit you've had to put up with in your life from this American government? You see some people who just showed up yesterday getting the keys to the Treasury. And the same thing if you're Trailer Park White. Everybody always blaming some other group. That's the distraction. I don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. If you both can't come together and say, you clean this shit up, or why are we even working? Why are we paying taxes? I'm not saying we burn the motherfucker down, but stop being fuel for the beast, the machine. I mean, I ain't no religious man, but you start looking at some of this shit and you're like, man, this type of level of corruption starts looking like something out of fucking Revelations or somewhere they're like talking about like in the end times, this shit would happen. It's ridiculous to expect the youth of America, and even just anybody sensible, to go to work to pay 50% of their work in taxes. Then on top of that, the interest payments, which pretty much suck up the rest of it. You milk these people dry throughout the course of their lives. You give them crappy education to waste their youth, and then you basically set up all these HR Karen bullshit hurdles to make it impossible for them to get a job. Like, how many dicks do you have to suck? It's like the Tootsie Pop. How many licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop? How many dicks do you have to suck just to get a job that doesn't pay enough to live? And then just a giant government dick to your face. Turn to the left, all you working class people, white, black, what the fuck ever. They're giving away the money to foreigners. And like, look, I ain't got nothing against Somalians. If you show up here and you work hard and you're part of a contributing part of America, but when 89% of your people are living on the dole, are basically a net negative, and that's just the regular welfare. Then you get the mega welfare, the corporate welfare. By the way, Democrats, where the fuck are you? Come on, Democrats. Come out of your hiding holes. Oh, we're scared. Oh my God, they got a bunch of brown people ripping us off. We can't say anything about that because that goes against our Democrat morals. Remember when they were all like, quit bailing out the 1%? Does this fraud not constitute the very thing that you fought against for ages? Awfully silent. Pretty sad that it's like watching, I hate that thing where they say, well, in the 60s, the politics flipped. No. In the 60s, the Democrats realized they were losing voters over the long term, so they started just buying votes. That's what really happened. In the 60s, they were the party of racism. And by the way, just ask anybody. Go look at the numbers. In the 40s, 50s, and the early 60s, were the black Americans doing better? More people in college? More two-parent families? Democrats have basically been fleecing America for ages, and so do the Republicans. I bet if you go across this country, you're going to see Republicans doing the exact same shit. But if you two groups of people can't get together and say, at the very fucking least, Can you at least manage the money correctly? Are we losing more money in fraud, billions of dollars in fraud, than we paid to bail out the banks, to bail out the auto industry during the recession? Are we losing more every year in fraud than that? And if both parties can't come together under that banner of clean up the fucking act, we can have our differences about other things, but if there's one thing every American should give a fuck about, by the way, once again, reason that I say this is not a channel for children. I swear all the time. I'm very crass. Sorry if I'm real. If there's one thing all of us can get behind is manage the fucking money correctly. Because if this was a private pension, you bet heads would fucking roll. If this was something that they're like, see this company, they were creating a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, and they were screwing over. Well, what the hell is our tax system? And this is what pisses me off about a lot of old people. You're quick to criticize these kids for not going to work, but you've built a world, an environment where it's practically impossible to have success unless you're a minimalist extremist like myself. Where I can live off $200 to $300 a month and I'm happy. And part of my happiness comes from the fact that I am not wasting my life. Like, I like driving truck. I actually like doing. There's work I like doing. But I'll be damned if I'm going to do that and give up how much of my dollar to a system that literally gives the keys to the treasury away to a bunch of motherfuckers that showed up yesterday. Heritage Americans' taxes should be for heritage Americans. If you show up to this country, it should be 25 years or longer before you can claim one fucking bit of benefits. You should have to prove for a number of decades, like 2 decades at least, that you are worthy of being in this country. And if that's too harsh, like, and people say, well, what about foreign investment? If other people want to bring boatloads of cash and invest in our country, that's a good thing, right? But if you want to show up and like, oh, I'm poor, give me free gibbies, get the fuck out. Is every pothole in America filled? Are the streets clean? Do your children have schools that adequately get them ready for the future? The answer is no. Do we have high-speed rails all over the country? Do we have the advancements? Like, you look at some of these other countries worldwide and you think to yourself, wow, that looks like a first world country. You come back, you realize they're like, America is a beautiful country, but we are relying off of fucking infrastructure that's been around since built back in the 70s and the 80s? We're the innovators of so many things, and yet we are falling to the wayside. Meanwhile, we're supporting terrorism in foreign countries via welfare fraud. Now, and I'm not even nice about this, because the Somalis are just the tip of the shit iceberg. I say when you catch these motherfuckers, you identify what countries they're from, and you just say, hey, everybody from that country, you're exiled. You can't come back. We're not only just kicking you out, we're kicking you out of everyone from that country coming in. And when you send those people back, you put the mark upon them. You take a hot branding iron and on their forehead, on their body, beaten, mutilated. You send them back with the mark. That way, when everybody sees that mark in their country, they know those are the motherfuckers that screwed you over from ever coming to this country. The prosperity you could have had will never be. You'll have to find somewhere else to do it. Maybe, wild thought, you should do it in your own country. And this kind of leads, I'm not a huge fan of us taking over other countries. But if we're basically going to be the rest of the world's welfare to begin with, why don't we just take over their countries? Y'all don't hear me? If we're going to be subsidizing how much welfare in Somalia, shouldn't Somalia just belong to us at this point? How much of Somalia's GDP is literally fraud from America? And the same thing goes for all these other countries. Now, here's what I'd rather do. I'd rather us get rid of all the fraud and get rid of the foreigners on welfare. It's bad enough we got a bunch of motherfuckers in this country that don't want to do any work, but I would recommend you not working if their tax dollars are just going to be given away to a bunch of people who just showed up yesterday. And it's one thing when it's like housing or food, but when they're literally taking billions of dollars in suitcases out of your country on airplanes, yes, I would say you should work as little as possible. And you should even state it. The reason I don't want to do more than I have to is, what am I working and what am I paying for? Like, at a certain point, When you make money, you're like, well, if I make any more than this, I'm just being punished. If I buy any more house than this, I'm just being punished by the system. If you want people to go out and work and contribute and keep this system going, then there has to be some feeling, some not belief, because belief can be complete bullshit. No, some factual information, rock solid foundational information that yes, your tax dollars are being spent on Americans. And by the way, if the two-party system cannot get behind that, both you Republicans and Democrats, all you people fighting over this dumbest shit. Look, we have our differences, but can't we both agree on one thing? Like, I'm a laid-back libertarian. But can't we both agree on one simple thing? The money that they take from your paycheck should be supporting Americans and American infrastructure, American businesses. I mean, if you're going to lose your mind about the tariffs, your taxes being pissed away through fraud, how much is a tariff of that in your own life? Just like the interest rates on the houses, the cars, and the everything. This system is designed, whether you're Republican or Democrat, to exploit you at a maximum capacity. And then to set up your children to be exploited just the same. And if both parties can't agree to get behind tackling the fraud that's going on in this country. Because, by the way, for black people, how many years have you been saying reparations? How many people could we have educated? How many people could we have educated? You know, whether it's community college or trade schools or something. Got people to a better life with all the fraud money. White folks from broken coal mining towns or forgotten places in the Midwest. A house where a house might cost $30,000 to $50,000, maybe $80,000. How many of you could have had homes for what has been pissed away in fraud in these other countries? How many of you could have been educated? If both of you as parties cannot get behind this, then do not ask the youth to go out and work and pay taxes for a system that is designed just to exploit people. And that's part of the reason, even though I love driving truck, for instance, there's times I look at the tax system and it's so fucking discouraging. Like 35 to 45, 50% of what you make, poof, gone to the government. If you made like 80,000, how much more did you really make? When people talk about Social Security, you pay your 15% plus the employer pays their 15%. Wow, that's 30% of what could have been your pay. Then you got the federal taxes that are being pissed away. How much better could your life have been? I don't care which side of the fence you're on. If both parties can't get behind cleaning the fraud up in America, then the youth should not be expected to work to keep this system going. Don't give me this, well, back in the day, I worked and paid into the system. A lot of you boomers and a lot of you Gen Xers grew up in the most prosperous era to ever exist. There's no excuse for why you didn't save for retirement. You didn't invest. Back when gold was like under $300 an ounce, and now it's worth $4,500 an ounce. And going up because inflation. There's no excuses for what we're seeing here. If both parties can't get behind tackling this fraud, then you don't deserve the effort of the next generation to save you. It's Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe, take it easy. Peace.